are dying in these encampments.
Well, I'm hoping that running nationally will bring him more to the center.
Yeah, what about anybody else? What about Michael?
Listen,
what about anybody
Vinny,
from the
what
left?
he's saying is,
Who?
what he's saying
There's
is,
nobody.
I'm saying, like,
Kennedy?
what if Newsom or one of these cats pop up?
Gavin? I just left California. I'm not voting for Gavin with the good hair.
I love that. I love that.
Gavin with the good hair,
But
just like Becky.
Fuck out of here.
So here's my thing though. So
I'm not a sucker.
Yeah,
they love him.
Behind all of this. And what I mean by that is, I remember when this first happened, and I don't think
Before we get started on this, guys, let me ask you a serious question. Have you ever had that friend, that person that you know, that you just tell them the truth, you show them proof, you show them evidence, you basically make a case to them about just about anything, but yet let's just say that they don't exactly want to listen, or maybe they do listen and they continue to rebuke and reject it, regardless of how much proof you give them. They just decide to just take the contrarian position. Or in some cases, it's not just about being a contrarian, but maybe it's just the fact that, maybe they really and truly are that deluded. Maybe they have their head so far up their butts that they love the smell of their own farts. Maybe they really and truly are that out of touch to where they can't see the truth. Now, of course, we're talking about Bill Maher again. And I've made some recent videos on Bill Maher, and the reasons why I've been doing this is to kind of show you guys that he's complaining about things that he quite frankly created. And this whole notion of Gavin Newsom being the Democrat Party nominee, to me, I actually find, well, to be completely honest with you, I say bring it on. Because Gavin Newsom is not electable at any level outside of California. The only states that would vote for somebody like Gavin Newsom are states like, say, New York and Illinois, or Oregon and Washington State, maybe Minnesota, because they're already so blue that you kind of can't break through the wall at this moment in time. It's going to take a long time to break through those states. But the thing is this right here. What Bill does not seem to know is that the state of California for many years, and I mean many years, has received the narrative of exactly how bad it really and truly is. Unless, of course, you live in Hollywood, or unless, of course, you live in a gated community. Chances are, if you live in a gated community, you don't experience the things that, quite frankly, others who live in the state do in fact experience. We got people who have moved from California to my state. We've got people who've moved from California to Florida, to Texas. Of course, the ones moving to Texas are trying to blue the state up. But of course, Texas has received an insurgence of people moving from the Midwest to kind of keep Texas red. Also, to go on top of this, the only state that California has really turned blue is actually the state of Colorado. All you got to do is just look at the actual vote. And most of the people who came from Colorado, or who came from California to Colorado, were mostly from Northern California. The ones who are the San Francisco types, the more hippie types, the ones who love to smoke all the weed and do all the DHT and all that type of stuff there. Those right there are the ones that kind of made that state blue. And of course, when they come over, of course, what they do is they bring their problems with them. Oftentimes, they bring the high rent, the inflation, the cost of living. Basically, that's pretty much, for the most part, what they bring around. Of course, there are some who come from California. This is right here is not meant to pick on people from California that come over and they say, you know what, man, I left California because the laws they've put in place. For example, there's this one right here that I'm showing you, lowering the penalty for child predators. Or what else? Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to phase out gas-powered vehicles, any vehicles that take gasoline. We're going to phase those out before 2030. The price of living is through the roof. The taxes are horrible. The homeless situation, my God, everybody knows how bad the homeless situation is. It's quite frankly is dangerous. And of course, the Second Amendment laws that have been signed recently that tell you that California is becoming very, very much a communist crap hole. But of course, people like Bill Maher don't seem to understand that not everybody in the world thinks the way he does. So when you look at this video here and you look at this take, and of course you guys heard about 10 seconds from Catherine Flanagan. Don't worry, we'll play the full clip a little bit later on. It shouldn't surprise you that Jillian Michaels had a different take when she went on Bill Maher's podcast the other day and basically told him that, Bill, you're not living in the real world.
It's California? Why?
Yeah, and I'm sure your life is just a nightmare.
Left because of him.
Oh, right, you're
Moved
in
to
Florida?
Miami.
So, you know what? I'll tell you something.
Lived here my whole life.
In 2020, I've lived here since '83.
Okay.
And I love where I live. I love California.
I lived in Malibu.
I'm dug in here. I did in 2020, when there was a week when the sun was blotted out from the sky because of fires, I did look at moving to Florida. Now, I think it was a little like when I was contemplating suicide when I was in high school and college. If I got laid once, I would stop to kind of, and I don't think I was ever really going to do it. But I did actually, or get married. You know, I was engaged once, but you know, there are things you in your life you're like, you know what, I might do that. And part of you was like, yeah, never going to do that. Okay. So, I mean, and I think moving to Florida is in that category, but I did look at it because I share your frustrations with California.
Now, guys, I played for you guys a clip that probably has absolutely nothing to do with the topic here, but it actually does. Now, granted, COVID, Fauci, that kind of thing has kind of went away and nobody's really caring about it. Nobody really and truly does anymore. But if I remember, the state of California had one of the worst COVID policies in the country. You practically had no freedom. Newsom, of course, he eventually got caught, got busted going into a restaurant, eating a very, very nice restaurant. Meanwhile, the rest of California itself was not allowed to partake in any of the festivities. 2020 was really a bad year for Californians, and I think a lot of Californians woke up. Now, there's something I need to say, and this is something that Bill very, very conveniently or inconveniently, however you might want to say this, doesn't want to bring up. Gavin Newsom was recalled after the 2020 election. He was recalled by Californians. Believe it or not, the move was actually made mostly by Hispanics in South and Southern California. Larry Elder was the primary candidate on the ticket that was trying to get Gavin Newsom replaced as governor. Even though Larry Elder, if he had gotten elected, and of course he did not, he'd have been getting elected against a very, very liberal legislative body in the state of California that probably would not have worked with Larry, and Newsom probably would have gotten elected again in that state if he had chosen to run in 2022. The fact of the matter is that he was recalled. Okay, there was a massive movement to get him out of office. These types of people typically don't tend to win presidential elections. I remember back in 2012, they recalled Governor Scott Walker in Wisconsin. And of course, people thought that Scott Walker would be the guy that would be the candidate in 2016 for the Republican ticket. Most people did not think he would survive. And of course, Scott Walker dropped out literally like after the second debate. People still think that Walker could have gotten elected. But then again, though, when he ran for a third term, he eventually lost to Tony Evers. Tony Evers, of course, many people in Wisconsin don't like him. But of course, the state of Wisconsin has not received a single good candidate to go up against, or at least in their eyes, to go up against Tony Evers. Incumbent leaders are hard to take out. But this whole notion of replacing Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom, when more than likely they would not do that if they were to replace him with anybody, it'd probably be Kamala Harris, given the fact the Democratic Party is focused in primarily on single women, preferably single black women and single white women. The white women, of course, eventually become cat ladies, and the black women, of course, eventually just abort more and more kids. Yes, I don't think that they're going to be able to replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom and he actually get elected. Also, not to mention the fact, some of the things I already mentioned. Now, COVID, 2020, California was probably the worst state. New Yorkers tell you, hey, look, we were the worst state when it comes to COVID. I live in North Carolina. Our governor, Roy Cooper, he was absolutely horrible when it came to COVID. But everybody has their own opinion when it comes to COVID. The thing is this right here, though. Gavin Newsom, people have already been conditioned for years not to like the state of California. Anytime you bring up California in any light, people automatically go to the homeless problem, kind of like what Michael Rappaport was bringing up, or all the other things that he brought to this segment with Patrick Bet-David the other day.
It's not happening, man.
Explain that. For those of the people that have never lived in L.A., why the hell, you've been there for 20 plus years, why the hell did you move out?
Well, I moved out because I wanted to go to New York. I didn't move out for any reason. I wanted to move back to New York full time. That's why I left. But on top, the homelessness in in Los Angeles and in California, San Diego, San Francisco, I could speak on those places. Sacramento is so, but particularly in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles area is unacceptable. It's scary. It's I don't know the how to fix it. It's unacceptable. It's not safe. It's not sanitary. I know California and Los Angeles is a driving city, but I do like to walk. When you walk, you shouldn't feel just uncomfortable by hordes and hordes and hordes of homeless people. It's not good for them. It ain't good for me. It's not good across the board. And the taxes suck. But the homelessness and how it went, down so bad, so quickly, and the crime.
Let's not forget about that.
Now, granted, I let that run a little bit longer, and don't worry, we'll get back to Bill Maher here in a second. The thing is that Michael Rappaport, who is an ardent never-Trumper, has came out recently and said such things like, I was wrong about Trump. Yeah, I really bought into the Charlottesville thing. Of course, I found out that now it was actually a hoax. Don't worry, I did a video on that. I'll link in the description box. He's basically come out and said, look, man, due to the illegal immigration, due to the crime, due to everything that's happening in my city, which is actually New York, voting for Dick Donald Trump is definitely an option. He's not the only one, by the way, who's considering this. There's actually a massive party shift. A lot of more left-leaning voters are coming to the right, and of course, a lot of old neocons are saying they're going to vote Democrat to fix Republican Party. I don't know if these people know this or not, but the left-leaning, moderate left-leaning Democrat's actually bigger than the old Rhino Republican or the old neocon Republican. We'll probably talk about that in a later video. Because, of course, you know, we have another one of those Tim Pool Fails on Politics videos coming out here soon, probably on the weekend. Of course, so it'll be the only video released of the day. It'll be released on Thursday. And it'll be released Thursday evening. But the thing is this right here. To believe that somebody like Gavin Newsom would get elected president or run towards the center is absolutely a crazy, let's just say, it's a crazy notion altogether. Because people already know about California's extremely left-wing policies. I mentioned this earlier. They lowered the law, or they lowered the penalties for child offenders, meaning that it's a little bit more lax. If anybody needs to go to prison, it's definitely child predators. Okay? The cost of living is through the roof. The energy costs are horrible. You've also got all kinds of other crazy laws. The crime is through the roof. If you guys have, and recently Gavin Newsom, of course, found this out about his own state.
Now the woman says, oh, he's just walking out. He didn't pay for that. I said, well, why are you stopping him? She goes, oh, the governor. I swear to God, true story. Oh, my mom's great. The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said, that's just not true. And I said, we have the 10th toughest, $950, the 10th toughest in America. She doesn't even know what I was talking about. By the way, it's the 10th toughest in America. Look it up. No one gives a damn about that. And I said, it's just not true. They're still stopped. They said, well, we don't stop them because of the governor. And then she looks at me twice, and then she freaks out.
Basically, you can shoplift anywhere in California, and you will not get penalized for anything. You won't go to jail. You won't get picked up. They just let you run out the door. Now, somebody's probably saying, well, wait a minute, that was a lie. They can just go pick them up later on. Yeah, if they can find them. But still, though, you just let the person out. Gavin Newsom, of course, just found this out. Of course, he basically has signed these things in law. And, of course, he's trying to do the whole, I screwed things up, now I'm going to come in and actually fix things. We'll talk about that in a later video. But the thing is this right here. Gavin Newsom is not electable anywhere. So for Bill Maher to actually say that this is the case is obviously a bunch of BS. But he recently got schooled about this by Catherine Flanagan. Let me play this for you.
I know you're friends with Newsom.
Yeah.
We live here, right?
Oh,
we
yes.
live in California. I was born here. In Oakland, they have Kaiser Hospital, where my pediatrician was. The hospital put out a notice last week, employees are not to leave for lunch. It's too dangerous.
Right.
In
Yes,
downtown
I read
Oakland.
that.
That's on him. Our homeless problem, I don't want to hear that the homeless problem is intractable. You want to be CEO? It's your problem. It's your desk.
Yeah.
I know you like him, but I just think...
Newsom's electability would come up again in his conversation with Jillian Michaels. Jillian Michaels, by the way, said that she was definitely on the left, but she's pulled more and more and more towards the center. The truth be told is California is experiencing a situation right now where people are leaving at record levels. Something else, too, to consider is that if Gavin Newsom did want to enhance his public profile, the debate performance he put against DeSantis did not help.
Talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff, and he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law, so we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida.
There was also the moment in this debate from what you just saw, not just the thing about Newsom's parents, but the thing that had Newsom's in-laws. But there's also this little thing that I'm showing you now of DeSantis pulling out the map of all the areas where there's massive loads of crap all over the streets. Of course, this is in San Francisco, Sacramento, LA, Santa Barbara, Santa Monica, pretty much all over the state. Fresno, I mean, it's probably all the way into the Yuba County area, which, of course, is where that mystery of the Yuba County 5 occurred, Oroville. It's probably that bad everywhere in the state. It's pretty goddamn awful, which is sad, too, because California was at one point in time the jewel of the country. It's how we used to view the state of California. It's where everybody wants to move. The rent's so low, but of course the rent's now through the roof. The cost of living is insane. The taxes are ridiculous. Only the wealthiest of the wealthy can live there. And of course, they're even leaving the state too and going to places like Texas and Georgia. The point is this right here. Gavin Newsom stands absolutely no chance. And right now, the only thing Bill Maher is doing is just simply coping, as I'll show you
I could
now.
have been more left, whereas now I'm definitely center. And I remember watching an episode of Rogan with Brett, and it was March of 2020, and he broke down all the reasons he thought this came from a lab. And I was just like, gain of function research, Wuhan Institute of what's a fear and cleavage site, asking different doctors. And I went to all my lefty friends and I was like, this came from a lab. And they're like, oh, you fucking tin hat, you married a conservative, you're out of your mind. Now, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Energy came from a lab. Why was that entire conversation shut down? Why are we not allowed to have it to this day? And people go, why does it matter?
Well, they do have it now.
Not really. Who's debating how safe gain of function research is? How about fucking nobody? Nobody, Bill.
What people are not doing is making it you're right, as big an issue as it should be. It should be a huge issue because I honestly think like in 20, 50 years, 100 years, sometime like in the future, they will look back on this period and it will strike them as so odd that it was controversial that a virus that started in Wuhan, where this one almost unique in the world lab was that was doing this exactly, the fact that they argue in 2020 and 21, they were, and all the way up through 20 whatever, they were arguing. Are you happier in Florida?
Yeah.
What is it in Florida that compensated more than what you had here?
It feels less crazy than it does here. Here, you just
Florida's less crazy.
Yeah. Hear me out. Hear me out on this.
Really?
Here's
the place
what I mean.
where the people are on bath salts, like fucking an alligator?
Sage Steele asked me, she's like, what was the moment when you felt like California had lost its mind? And it was a piece of legislation that I can't recall.
Did it affect your life?
But Bill,
did it affect your life?
Is the crime affecting our lives?
I don't think I need to go in detail to talk about what exactly Jillian Michaels is complaining about. But what Jillian Michaels is trying to tell Bill right now is this right here. You don't live in reality. You don't live in reality. And by the way, this interview would get spicier because apparently somebody actually robbed Jillian Michaels' home. This is largely due to Gavin Newsom's policies. Okay? It's like I've always said before, if you really and truly want a red pill liberal, give them what it is they vote for. Give them what it is that they want. And you will see them immediately become a centrist. It's just the way it is. When reality hits you, you will suddenly begin to change your mind. Watch a wee bit more.
Newsom, it was the guy's third offense. He broke into our house. He had duct tape and a video camera. Anyway, long story, but third strike, guy goes to jail, gets let out during COVID. I mean, give me a fucking break. You're not going to hold PG&E accountable for that fire in 2018.
Yeah.
You're going to decriminalize everything but regulate nothing. You're prioritizing the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. Well, come on, really?
Again, my thing with Gavin is, first of all, he can win. First of all, I just like him. I think he's really smart. Really? Is he a politician? Yes. That's the... Hello, is he slick? Good. I'm fucking glad he's slick. Slick people win elections. Clinton was slick. Obama was pretty slick.
A little bit ended up becoming a lot longer. Patrick Bet-David, he went on the show the other day. He went on Bill Maher's podcast and basically asked him the question, what is it about Newsom that makes him electable? Well, it's the same thing. He's slick. He's got good hair. He'll run more towards the center. This country has seen California collapse, okay? It has collapsed every year since the 90s. I mean, you could argue it actually happened back during the 80s, but it really became prevalent during the 90s. It was also pretty bad when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of that state, too. Arnold wasn't a good governor. I mean, yeah, he defended marriage for a little bit there, but at the end of the day, Arnold wasn't a good governor. The state's been falling apart for years, okay? The taxes are through the roof. The cost of living is absolutely insane. Only people that make Bill Maher level money can even live in California nowadays. People are leaving that state at a record level. They're moving all across the country, moving to Arizona, Nevada. It's really, really funny, too, because it's mostly the conservative voters who move to Arizona, Nevada, and they end up moving to California and even in my home state, North Carolina. It's the liberal ones who try to move to Texas and try to move to California and New Mexico. But still at the same time, though, people are fed up with the policies that they voted for. And in some cases, they're fed up with California altogether. The Second Amendment, for example, has been under assault like absolute insanity, okay? It's gotten to the point to where they now want to lock you up just for owning a gun and having it in your house. I mean, the state of New Jersey had something like this a while back where it was that if you actually defended yourself in your own home and shot an intruder, you could go to jail for that. California is getting very, very close to that. And when you factor in the taxes, the cost of living, and the fact that California at one point in time wanted to tax citizens for actually leaving the state, you can't blame people for thinking that California is one great big giant crap hole. By the way, a lot of these laws have been signed by Gavin Newsom. It's one of the main reasons why is that Gavin Newsom is quite frankly unelectable and that Bill Maher is really and truly living in a fantasy land. It also brings us back to one more thing. And this is what I'm going to say before I close this video. Back during 2020, Bill had a debate with Dan Crenshaw. Now, guys, I'm no fan of Crenshaw, not anymore. You figure I would be because he's a SEAL, I'm a Marine, and of course, we're both veterans. But still, at the same time, when you look at the fact that this guy has supported red flag laws, red flag Dan's what we call them, of course, you're going to lose respect for the guy, especially me being a Second Amendment absolutist. That debate to me, or that little discussion, which I'll try to link in the description box, exposes a lot about Bill Maher. It exposes that without the crowd, without the people cheering in the background, Bill's not really worth a damn in a discussion or a debate. And I think that the discussion he had with Jillian Michaels, who, by the way, is somebody who's probably not that well educated on the topic of politics, I think that her giving the experiences that she just had should tell you flat out, just straight up right then. She's definitely a lot more rational, lives more in the real world than Bill Maher does. Fact of the matter is that Bill Maher right now is living in a fantasy. He, quite frankly, it's really a result of his coping. He helped create a lot of these social justice warriors and a lot of these NPCs. He definitely helped create an anti-God movement, an anti-Christianity movement in the country, which, by the way, if you take God out of any society, next thing you know, you'll see the morals completely change. The country will begin to fall apart. Now, I'm not just saying that because it's the right thing to say. I'm saying that because, you know, hey, look, it's pretty daggone obvious. Okay? If you remove God from a society, next thing you know, you're going to see people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, you got people right now on the internet debating the ethics of CP, actually defending it. Talking about this guy named Vosh. Don't worry, we'll talk about him in a video later on this weekend because Ethan Klein, of all people, exposes crap. Crazy. The thing is this right here. Bill Maher helped create a lot of the NPCs and a lot of the social justice warriors out there. Now he's coping with their BS. So he thinks the best way to counter this is to bring in Gavin Newsom, somebody who's really allowed the social justice warrior left run completely rampant all over his state. You got crime that's gone through the roof. You can now shoplift. You can now commit crime in that state and not go to jail. You've got the cost of living through the roof. Taxes, quite frankly, have made the state completely unlivable. You've got a homeless epidemic that's through the roof that has gotten to the point where it's actually toxic to walk on the streets of Los Angeles. Crap. Literal feces on the street everywhere you go. You got a state that, let's just say, quite frankly, has a population, the entire whole state's worth of people leaving the state every day at a ridiculous level. You can't defend yourself in your own home, and you wonder why it is, especially given the fact that now that they're banning gas-powered vehicles, and you think this guy can win states like, say, Michigan, Wisconsin, the Midwest? No, he stands no chance at all. But still, though, at the same time, though, if Gavin Newsom is the person they replace Biden with, I welcome it. Gavin Newsom would get absolutely annihilated in an election. And to me, it would actually be hilarious to see. Because Bill Maher's meltdown the very next day would probably be the most hilarious meltdown ever. But it would also probably be the most anger-filled one. So I say go right ahead. Bring Gavin Newsom on. Let's go ahead and end the delusion. With that right there being said, guys, please tell me what you think. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. If Gavin becomes our nominee, I'm pretty sure he'll get absolutely destroyed. He'll get absolutely crushed. Please tell me what you guys think. And all social justice warriors out there, piss off.